AI capital?
I mean, do you have any doubts on that? I mean, see, let's be very honest. If any innovation that needs to happen in the world today, it's happening right here from Bengaluru. If we have matured from being the call center of the world to being one of the leading R&D centers of the world. Out of the top Fortune 500 companies, we have more than 400 of them here. So from a call center of the world, we have moved to R&D. From R&D now we have moved to being the most disruptive city. In the innovation index, we have been consistently #1. In the World Innovation Index, we are #8, and we are trying for a #5 slot now. And I think in India, in the Indian scenario, the startup valuation, you were saying that Delhi might be a potential competitor. Hyderabad, I always get a lot of flack from Hyderabad.
I'm going to ask you about
I'll come back to that as well.
Yeah.
So, $384 billion is the unicorn, is the startup unicorn valuation. Out of that, $186 billion is from Bangalore alone.
Wow.
186, 52%. IT exports, we are #1. Aerospace and defense innovation, 65%. Biotech and bio services export, we are 60%. Manufacturing, innovation in manufacturing, we are #1. And all this is just not my data, it's data by leading research institutes, and more importantly also from the central government.
Well, we have a unicorn right here, so no doubt.
Yeah, so, and we have 44 unicorns here in Bangalore and 57 soon-to-be unicorns.
Unicorns.
So show me any other ecosystem in India which is coming close to me.
Great.
Not a single one. So if you're asking if AI is going to be the next disruptor from Bengaluru, yes it is. We are going to be the capital to ensure that more disruptions happen. Already we are considered the 5th best city for AI adaptability in the world.
Wow, that's amazing. So we are not only going to be India's Silicon Valley, we will also be India's Cerebral Valley, as the new AI hub in Silicon Valley is called.
Absolutely.
Okay. But I have to ask you, Priyank, what more can the government do in terms of encouraging, this new ecosystem? We have Mahesh on the panel who will take us through how industries also are adopting generative AI significantly. But from a government point of view, what else can be done?
So we are doing 3-4 very important things which I think is crucial to the ecosystem. #1, we are heavily concentrating on skills. The AI adaptability in skilling is highest in the world. So whereas if my data is correct, the AI skills adaptability or the AI adaptability in US is close to around 31% and internationally it is 27%, whereas in India it is 57%. And it is led by Bengaluru. So we understand, the government understands that the foundation for any innovation that needs to happen is to happen through skills. So we are heavily focusing on skill development in emerging technologies. We have formed a skill advisory council which is talking to industry and trying to understand what is it that they require within their sector for us to ensure there is nurturing of talent, leadership, incubation and also innovations, #1. #2, we are coming up with centers of excellence across sectors. So the previous panelists, when they were talking about health, AI in the health sector, we are coming up with a center of excellence in health sciences, life sciences and medical products where startups can come and experiment or incubate with us. So irrespective of the sector, whether it's gaming, whether it's AVGC, whether it is wireless technologies, we are game for that. So we have these various centers of excellences that are coming up. Number 3, we are also trying to come up with a very disruptive public procurement policy. Sometimes what happens is the startups can be as disruptive as they want to be, but if they don't have a client, it's very difficult. So why can't government be their first customer? And for scaling, if it's going to be, it's going to have a huge social impact, government is the only place where they can scale. So you have a health product that is that needs scaling. So the government is going to play a role in that, wherein in this public procurement policy, we give opportunities to startups to come and pilot with government. And number 4, we have something called the Global Innovation Alliance, where we have partnered with 33 countries. So startups that are disrupting the ecosystem right here in Bengaluru or in the country, we give them networking access, market access to these countries, to our partner countries also. Like I said, the talent is here, the innovations are happening here, the IPs are being generated here, but the market access and adaptability is there as well. So through our Global Innovation Alliance members, we will be ensuring that the startups that are here get networking access, market access, funding access abroad for 33 countries also. So we have kept it very simple. These 4-5 things we are doing to ensure that we maintain our leadership position in this sector.
Right. I think the Deputy Chief Minister, D.K. Shivkumar, said day before that you're going to use AI for traffic management.
Yes,
will that really solve Bellandur and OMR and Whitefield? And
it will not solve the infrastructure problems are there everywhere. And every growing city has this problem. Okay, it's not that overnight things will change. I was recently in California. I was in the Silicon Valley of San Francisco, and do you know what happens there? There are more than 60,000 homeless people there out on the streets.
Yeah.
And they have made a rule that you go and steal anything that is below $950, you will not be booked.
Wow.
So you can actually go to a mall, pick up an iPhone, you can steal an iPhone and not be booked. That's the problem. So groceries are being chained and locked in San Francisco. New York, there was a flood recently, if you read. Melbourne there was. London has a traffic and a smog problem. As soon as you bring a taxi or you bring in your vehicle to Central Business District of London, you have to pay a congestion tax. Just imagine if Mr. D.K. Shivkumar puts up a congestion tax here, will you be voting for us next time? No way. So it's a problem with every growing city. I'm not trying to say we have, every growing city has their own set of problems, whether it's Paris or whether it is Bengaluru or London, but it's always a constant work in progress. So using of technology will always probably accelerate the gap that needs to be filled in. So maybe better mobility management, maybe better traffic management will happen through those things. But of course, infrastructure needs to improve. It will improve. It's a constant work in progress. We are committed to that. And if we intend to be global players, we have to pull up our socks, and we are very much aware of that. So using AI cameras might solve a certain aspect of the problem, but I think using public transport and better common sense will help us more.
Got it. Mahesh, some very interesting data points from the minister on why, the city has what it takes to emerge as India's startup AI hub. But you've also released a report today that talks about how AI can turbocharge India, and that was a crazy statistic, right? It can add almost $1 trillion, the application of generative AI by enterprises. If you can quickly tell us, if this is already happening, has it moved from mere proof of concepts to actual application?
Yeah. So I think we've done a deep dive. I think the report is now distributed, so we'll really love all of you to read it and give us feedback. But a few facets of that. One, to your question, Chandra, we did a survey of 200 C-level execs kind of getting a state of the union of what's happening. I think right now, huge amount of optimism. Almost 82% feel that it will impact their business positively. When I say it, I mean generative AI will impact their business positively. But the flip side is 3 out of 4 are still confused on various things. Where will the value come from? What are the use cases which they should deploy? How should they build it? How should they protect against hallucination and all of the other data privacy, concerns? Also the cost. It's a very dynamic equation right now. We talked a lot in one of the earlier panels on GPUs and the cost and the changing equation. So should you use OpenAI or, should you open source models? What should you do? So there's a lot of thinking in the report, which you'll see about what's happening in India today, where the execs are, where the boardroom is. That's one part of it. Then we conducted what I think is the first deep dive into the GDP impact of generative AI. So our prediction is, and it's there in the report, the calculation is also there. There's a very detailed calculation in the annexure. You should take a look at that. We think that over the next 6 years until 2030, it will add cumulatively between 1.2 to 1.5 trillion dollars in GDP. And again, there's a sectoral breakdown of that. So massive amount of impact possible across, different sectors. And last but not the least, there's a very big agenda in terms of the regulatory, the policy agenda and the regulatory aspects of this, right? And we talked a lot earlier. There's probably 4 things which are important. We've discussed it, I think, all day today. There's chips, there's data, there's talent, and then there's distribution. Right? So we talked a lot about chips earlier. I won't go into that. Talent, obviously, even the minister just cited that. That's huge. But data is the one which I think will actually get us ahead. If you go back and think about what happened in, some of the early revolutions in AI, it was the ImageNet challenge where you tagged a lot of images collaboratively and then you used, CNNs to do it. I think the same thing is going to happen. Now think about in India, if we could have privacy preserved data sets being made available. Right? It could be healthcare, it could be UPI, etc. If you could anonymize those, make those available, and then you train models on that instead of just the World Wide Web, you have much better foundation models.
Right.
So there's a very big aspect, of that as well. So I think those are some of the areas which I believe are in the future. Lots of optimism, and yeah, do read the report and give us your feedback.
Great. Dilip, since he said sectoral, I want to ask you about what Manipal hospitals, what are you doing as far as AI and healthcare is concerned?
Yeah.
Have you already seen some applications? Yeah. Hopefully doctors are not using ChatGPT to write prescriptions.
Yeah, so I know, thank you Chandra, and I know Bangalore would not make fun of Manipal, I'm sure of that. It's a pleasure to be here, and you're absolutely right. The previous panel talked about the applications of AI in healthcare. I just want to give a couple of examples where, we are using it. For example, the conversations, the interaction with patients and their families oftentimes is through conversational AI or chatbots is something that we are already put in place.
Right.
We actually, we are the first one in India to use wearables to track patients outside of the hospital. Often, let's take an example of a patient who had an angioplasty, an interventional cardiology procedure. He or she needs, by the 3rd day they are home, but then at home they need to be active, they need to exercise, they need to do stuff. So we, along with, at the time of discharge, we give them a wearable that, which... This
is your own wearable device?
No, I mean, we have a venture with Google Health. We give a Fitbit, and this is a unique, collaboration that we have with Google Health. We give a Fitbit to them, and, they wear it, and we have an app which tracks them, and, we sort of prod them when they have been inactive for a long time, and also maybe give a nudge when they have to take the medication. And what we are finding at the back end, Chandra, is that people who are on wearables and on this tracking is recovering much faster, much painless after a joint replacement surgery, for example. So this is already proven. Now, this is external facing with the patient. Now look at what happens in the hospital. It is now quite common to run all the imaging, the radiology, the output through an AI layer, not replacing a doctor, but that AI layer could flag areas of concern and, send the images to the doctor. It increases the patient safety. So that again is something which is already there. But I just also want to take a minute to sound a word of caution that, we all day we talked about the potential and positives about AI. Healthcare is one where we have to be a little careful. We would need a framework. We would need guardrails. The reason is that unlike many other sectors, we are dealing with vulnerable people here. That, it's a very different context compared to somebody in hospitality or financial inclusion. So we have to use AI and should always be cautious that we take the business angle out of it. That, I don't as Manipal or I don't as healthcare sector, do not use AI because it also promotes further consumption of service and revenue. So that is a line that we have to draw. I'll take a minute to give an example that, all of us patronize most of the time the same hospitals year after year. That, if you all think back, we go to the same hospital, and whatever is the incident, sometime maybe for a fever, sometime for something more serious, but look at over a period of 5 years, the data the hospital has is across the spectrum of therapies.
Correct.
So 1 or 2 times you may have been admitted, but most of the time an outpatient consultation, we have data on blood reports, images, and the medication that you have taken. Now AI could sort of predict what is, looking at your clinical pathway over the last 5 or 6 years, what could lie ahead. So, but you have to be careful in using that information. Take, that is still with one patient. Let's stretch it one more. A lot of families go to the same hospital. A lot of extended families go to the same hospital. So if I look at a case where, maybe 30 people in the family or a large extended family data is there in the hospital, you might use the data, you could technically use the data of an elder sibling or a parent or a grandparent to predict what can happen to a younger person. But should you do it? Where does the ethics come in that? And, how do you do it with conscious and not with a business aptitude or a business motive is something that we have to be careful. So healthcare, I would only argue that is one where we have to use AI with some sensitivity and guardrails.
Got it. Kevalia, we saw a presentation recently, I think by SoftBank, where they spoke about how Swiggy is already using AI on their app. How is Zepto using AI?
Yeah. Firstly, thank you so much.
Deliver groceries in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever the current.
10 only.
10.
Still at 10. But no, firstly, thank you so much for having me here. I think, so obviously it's not been a very long time, right, since we started, about 2.5 years now. And it's only last year that we started, initially we were just figuring out the basics of the business. So it's only last year that we started hiring a couple of data scientists and figuring out what the right problems are to solve. And thankfully, like you said, not just Swiggy, but a whole bunch of companies in India and globally have done a lot of fantastic work that we were able to build on top of, where with a very small team, like today also, our data science team is not very big. It's like 12 people, right? That's for 2 reasons. One is like talent is still quite a bit of a problem, but even with a very small team, we're able to build on top of what they've done and not have to reinvent the wheel, right? That being said, I think now we're coming to a place where a lot of the previously solved problems, we've already sort of implemented solutions to those, and so now it's like, what's the next big thing that we can do? To talk about what we've already done, there's countless examples. I think some are a little more boring than the others. I'll start off with the boring ones and come to the more exciting ones, but
or you can start with the exciting ones.
I'll build up slowly. But for example, in supply chain, right, we have a large network of warehouses, some large ones, some small ones, and figuring out, like forecasting is a very basic thing that any retail business has to do, right? And especially given that some 40% of our business is perishable stuff, right? Fruits, vegetables, dairy, bread, low shelf life items. The risk of expiry, right, just hits your bottom line pretty directly. And so being able to predict how much demand is going to be and just the right amount, because you don't want to be out of stock and you also don't want to have too much that gets dumped at the end of the day, is one big one that we use it for. Route planning for our trucks that replenish our dark stores. On the last mile delivery side, which is the right delivery partner. We have a variety of vehicles that we use. We're trying to push bicycles and EVs a lot more now. I think today it's like 30-40% of deliveries. By the end of next year, we want that to be 70%. But you can't use them for very long distance deliveries, right?
Yeah.
And so if there's a customer I want to prioritize and make sure that maybe it's the first time they're using the app. I want to make sure that they have a fantastic experience. Maybe I won't give that order to a bicycle and things like that. So on the non-customer facing side, there's a bunch of more boring ones that just we do just because they sort of improve efficiency bit by bit. On the customer facing side, there's a bunch of exciting stuff as well. I think primarily personalization and recommendations, right? Groceries are we have a lot of data about people because they order like thrice a week, right? So if someone's coming to the app 12 times a month and ordering, we're able to get a pretty good idea of not just what they're buying, but what they're looking at also, right? And so, for example, let's say you're thinking about buying, now we're playing with other categories also. Let's say there's a lipstick, given that makeup is a new category that we've launched. Lipstick, you're looking at a couple of different lipsticks, but you haven't bought it yet, for whatever reason, right? Leveraging that data to figure out how likely you are to purchase, and then maybe sending you a WhatsApp message with a discount on that same lipstick is something that we're playing around with, for example. So a lot on the customer side.
Thing, I literally sent you an email and I got a message from Zepto. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, see, well, it's everywhere. But yeah, there's a long list, right? I could go on and on, but these are some of the big ones.
Got it. Arindam, the minister spoke about Bangalore being the AI hub, but it is also the GCC hub. The number of companies that have opened up GCCs in Bangalore, and Priyank, maybe you can also talk about that. But tell us about generative AI and how you're applying it. Kavaliya gave a number of examples, both on the B2B side as well as the B2C side. But in terms of financial services, where do you see the scope?
Thank you. So I think just to start with Bangalore, and I completely endorse everything that the minister just stated, which is there is a hub or a magnet over here which allows all global enterprises, they get the cross-section of skills. They get the cross-section of skills which build businesses. So, sometimes the labeling as a GCC is a misnomer, because actually all of us are managing enterprises over here are actually managing significant intellectual builds for our corporations globally. So as an example, and I represent State Street, which is it is the world's largest custodian bank, and our clients are basically investment managers and the top investment managers of the world and their investors, right? So we build at the core of it our front to back alpha trading platform integrated with our back office services that we provide. Now in that whole trading life cycle, generative AI is actually being sort of input at various stages of that, all the way from great investment advice to hyper-personalized customer support at the end of it. So it is actually being applied at different points of the trading life cycle of the business chain. And if you look at where you can get such a ecosystem which allows all of the different skills, whether it is trading skills, research skills, technology skills, customer service skills, this is one of the few cities in the world where you can do it, actually.
Got it. Priyank, we spoke AI, but I also want to get in a quick word from you on what the government plans to do as far as mobility is concerned, because this policy on bike taxi, one day Rapido is happy, the other day it has to be sad because something is happening with respect to bike taxis. So why is there so much inconsistency when it comes to policy?
See, one thing we as a government need to understand, and public also needs to understand, and tech companies also need to understand, that government always, any government, not just Karnataka government, every government across the globe plays catch up to technology. While we are talking about AI, my panelists over here told about putting safe guarding or rails when you are using it for health. You said you got an email, you sent an email to Zepto and they sent you a message. And so how do I play catch up with that? I don't know whether there was a borderline invasion of privacy there. I don't know if there was a complete violation of ethics there, and so on and so forth. So when you speak about mobility, right now, they banned Uber in London. They banned Uber even in, I think, New York or one of the bigger cities in US as well for whatever reason. Even in India, right now, operating Uber, Ola, Red Bus is illegal. Because my policy of the transportation policy or the act of the Carriage Act or the Transport Act does not understand, or there is no provision in it for aggregation. There is no provision in it for seat sharing. There is no provision for it in various things. So many of the telcos find it, the telecom companies find it difficult to work in the Indian area because we are still governed by the Telegraph Act. So policies always play catch up. So AI, the European Union is now saying that we will have some kind of safeguards for AI. But where is AI? It's already gone. I mean, deep fakes are coming, everything is coming up. So governments always play catch up to policy. So what we are trying to do here, of course with the help of the good folks from the industry, is trying to see if we can come up with an innovation authority. In my previous tenure as a minister, I had done something, come up with a framework which did not take off because, of course, I don't get assured of being elected every 5 years. I have to go back to people and ask for my votes. So, in this innovation authority, if there is a technology that we don't understand, or if there is no policy for that technology, it can sit in this innovation authority until and unless a policy is being framed.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
There are people on this panel
So that,
who could
they
help
can,
you with
as
that.
long as they're running a legal, ethical business, let them flourish. Let them thrive. Instead of governments having the habit of, if you have a cold, you cut the nose. So we are trying to do something like that, an innovation authority where these things can sit. Now, look at the gaming thing. Just because we have not understood the difference between a game of skill versus a game of chance, the gaming industry is suffering. 28% tax.
Sir, but there you and your own revenue minister have different views.
That's because he's coming from the GST, I'm coming from the industry. He's the GST council member. If I was a GST council member, I would have batted. And of course, I did raise my concerns even with Mr. Gowda. I did raise concerns with the financial thing. So that's what I'm saying.
Got it.
Because we are not, as governments, we don't understand technology properly. Now, even if I'm playing chess, you are saying I'm gambling online. Even if I'm playing, I mean, of course, I'm against gambling of any kind. But you cannot equate an online chess game, which is a game of skill, to some Teen Patti or Rummy.
Rami, correct.
Now the industry has to pay a retrospective tax of 1 lakh crore. Now already one of the leading gaming companies, as soon as this tax came in, the GST thing came in for gaming,
layoffs. Yeah.
7,000 people were laid off in a week. Just because somebody in Delhi or somebody in Vidhan Sabha does not understand what they do. So we are trying as a government of Karnataka, we are just trying to understand things. And why do I attend conclaves like this? Is so that I can learn from you people. So that I can, if there is a policy course correction that is needed, I will be able to do so. Otherwise, in Vidhan Sabha, I can actually ensure that Manipal closes their division tomorrow. Or
Sir, don't scare Mr. Jose. He will not come for our next event.
Zepto will not be delivering in 10 minutes if my traffic cop is going to be with him every time. Am I right? So, these are policies we don't understand.
Now you scared Kevalia also.
No. I'm just saying that everywhere the governments are a little are playing catch up. That does not mean that the businesses they run are illegal. We need to interact better. We need to listen more. We need to understand technologies better. And the best way to do that is when we have a mechanism where Zepto can tell the government, look, this is what I am doing, this is what needs to be done, and the policy course correction is there. And if it's well within the ambit of law, we should do it.
Got it.
We should do it. Ultimately, they are providing innovations. Ultimately, they are providing jobs. So, as a government, it should be my priority to listen and do a course correction for policies.
Got it. On that note, I think we are out of time, but thank you very much, Minister Mahesh, Dilip, Kaivalya and Arindam for this fascinating discussion on how generative AI can turbocharge India Inc., Startup Inc. And clearly Bangalore is thinking ahead in many ways. I think Innovation Authority is a very good idea, and possibly some policy recommendations related to AI can also reside there. But thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you so much.
So I just have one final question. What happens to the sibling rivalry with Hyderabad? I mean, is it sibling rivalry now? Because earlier you were fighting with KTR, but now can you fight with a Congress IT minister there?
He's a very good friend of mine, by the way.
Okay.
So
When someone says Hyderabad versus Bangalore, what will you
country
say?
cousins. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That is one power-packed conversation, ladies and gentlemen. We thank Honourable Minister for shedding more light on the subject of generative AI, and a big thank you to all our esteemed guests for being a part of this panel. Thank you. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, not a day goes by when you and I don't Google something. But with AI-powered chatbots taking over, how you and I search might change forever. Think voice, think images apart from text. To decode all of this and a whole lot more, we are super stoked to welcome all the way from Mountain View, California, Pandu Nayak, the VP Search for Google. Please join us on stage, Mr. Pandu Nayak, and we have Chanda taking this conversation forward. Let's welcome him with a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure to have you with us, sir.
Okay, a huge round of applause for Pandu Nayak. He leads search for Google globally. I have a lot of questions on search engine optimization, but I will come to that later. But thank you so much for coming all the way from California to Bangalore to the Global AI Conclave. We've had some great conversations during the day. But, you were one of the architects of Google Search. What was it like to build a search engine in the early 2000s, and how has it changed since then?
First, thank you for having me. It's great to be here with everyone in person like this. I've been at Google now 19 years, and
Wow.
Which is
And your journey started from what, IIT Bombay, Stanford, and then